Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Leading You. I'm Julie Hyde, your host. And today we are going to be talking about cereal boxes and identity. And you might be thinking, what the hell do they have in common? Well, I'm going to share it with you. So while this is a bit of fun, there is definite meaning in this. And this goes back to your reputation, your identity, and your positioning. So let's start with something that you probably did this morning, or you definitely did last time you went shopping. And that was you went to a shelf, you picked something up, or maybe you didn't. And in about 2 seconds before you read a word on that box, you'd already made a decision because you didn't need to read it. You already knew what that product was for. And that's the power of positioning. And your reputation works exactly the same way. Now, here's what I mean. And I always speak about Special K here. And the tagline that Special K had some years ago. So if you picked up a box of Special K, the promise was right there on the front. It keeps you looking good. Now, if you turn the box on its side, there was a side panel and it listed every single ingredient that supposedly delivered on that promise. You knew what you were getting before you even opened that box. The Special K was and is a bit of a fave for me with cereal. I don't eat it all the time anymore, but it was something that I used to love. And it goes back to my childhood. My grandma used to have Special K with all bran on the top. And weird combination, but it was so yummy at that time. Anyway, getting back to Special K. Now, I want you to think about how people around you experience you. So they already know your packaging and they might already know your promise. So Julie Hyde empowers women in leadership and business. On the side of my panel, they know what I deliver. They know what I stand for, and they've made up their mind what you're for. So the question is, what does your panel say what you think it says? Because here's where it gets really interesting. Dr. Tasha Eurich spent 4 years researching self-awareness across almost 5,000 people. And her finding was that 95% of us believe we're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% of us actually are, which means that most of us are walking around with a version of ourselves in our heads that doesn't match what people experience. And it gets worse the more senior you become, because the higher you rise, the less honest feedback you get. People avoid it. They will tell you the good stuff. They'll tell you what you want to hear, because if they tell you the truth, there can be consequences for them. So the gap widens and often you don't even know it. So how does the panel get written in the first place? So this is the part that we rarely stop to think about, because every time you stepped in to solve the problem, you signaled you're the problem solver. Every time you took on more because nobody else would, you signaled I'm the pleaser. Every time you stayed quiet in the room, you signaled you're not quite ready. And you didn't mean to. Like, this is an unconscious thing that we're doing. None of us mean to do this. But intentions don't build reputations, behaviors do. And over years, those behaviors stack up to a story, a label, on the box. So Julie Hyde and the label. Now, that's not wrong. And the box might say that you're reliable, a capable set of hands. But if that's all it says, if there's no evidence of strategic thinking, of future focus, or the leader that you're ready to be, the value that you bring to the table, how you make the organization or the people or the strategy better, then when the next opportunity comes up, they're not reaching for you because you're not capable. You're not at that level yet because your product box does not say that yet. And here is the thing about cereal boxes that I love. The product doesn't change. The positioning does. So Special K has been the same cereal for decades. What's changed is how it's talked about, what it stands for, and what it leads with. So, for example, now Special K is there so that you can spend less time thinking about eating well and more time on what's special to you. So free your mind from breakfast and unleash your potential. That's now what Special K stands for. It's lost its catch cry of keeps you looking good. However, that catch cry still stays in my mind because I haven't heard this positioning sort of landing well. So it's like it's hit a bit of a void, and that's what can happen with our reputation as well. So you're not different. You're not a different person to the one who deserves that next opportunity. What needs to change is how you're positioned, what you're signaling, and what you are detailing on the side of your product box. So here are 3 questions that I would love for you to consider. What am I actually known for right now? Honestly, not what you want to be known for. What would people in the room actually say if your name came up? What's the first thing that comes to mind when someone thinks of you? And now, what is your evidence of that? Not assumptions, real signals, feedback that you've received, opportunities that you have or haven't been offered, rooms that you're invited into or not. The evidence is always there if you're willing to look at it honestly. And thirdly, do my behaviors match who I want to be seen as? Because if there's a gap between the leader you believe you are and the one you're showing up as, other people can see that, even if you can't. There's a real mismatch. So the shift isn't about doing more. And it's definitely not layering more onto what you're already doing. Most people try to close the gap by working harder, by delivering more and proving themselves again. But that just deepens the existing perception. It confirms the story, the current story, that current catch cry. And it adds more of the same ingredients to a panel that already has too many of the wrong ones. So the shift isn't in how you show up. It's what you choose to contribute. It's where you spend your time and your voice. And it's moving from being known for what you deliver to being chosen for what you lead. And a great example of this is a client that I have, and she has stepped into a COO role in a corporate organization. And she's also always been known as the doer, as really great with people, as the one who has the solution. People always look to her for this type of thing. And this organization is going through enormous change right now. And she is still getting dragged back into solving the problems for particular teams, not teams that she leads, because she now leads the leader, but solving the team under them because they're not doing a good job. She's the one who's still doing so much rather than influencing, rather than leading the leaders and keeping people accountable. She's still the one doing. So she is really exhausted at the moment and is doing incredibly long hours because she's trying to do her role while also trying to do the roles that she's done previously that she got a reputation for being really good at. But now she's got this opportunity to lead differently. So she needs to influence. She needs to empower. And she needs to trust others to do while holding them accountable. It's a very different mindset. It's a very different dynamic. And it's a very different catch cry and ingredients on her product box. So there'd be a lot of sides to this person's product box and a great long list of what makes her. So it's very hard to determine what she's actually good at. And in the back of her mind, she knows that this is true because she's worried about this. Because how is she going to be judged or critiqued as an effective COO when she's really not playing that role? And the one thing that she's not doing is asking for feedback. She's waiting for it to come to her. And unfortunately, when you're at that level, at that time, it can be too late. So here's where I'll conclude today. You train people how to see you. You can rewrite that. You can change how people see you. You can change how people perceive you, and therefore you can change how people talk about you and how they consider you. Not by becoming someone different, but by showing up more of who you are already. The parts that have been sitting quietly in the background while you've been busy delivering. And that's not a small thing. That's actually everything. Demonstrating your value, showing what you're capable of next, showing the possibility in you so that it makes it easy for others to identify that in you. So when they're walking past product shelf and they're thinking, who do I need to fulfill this? They pick you off the shelf. There's your promise. There's what you stand for. There's your list of ingredients. Easy, done, decision made. So that is what a cereal box has in common with your reputation, with your identity, and with your positioning. And you have the choice in how that is positioned for you. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'd love to hear from you if this resonated, and also if you'd like to hear any other episodes. What topics would you like to hear? Who would you like me to interview? And of course, I'd love for you to rate and review the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you tuning into this, and I'd love to hear in the comments what you thought. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week.